top 3 reasons why people get depressed when they move abroad, when they move from their country to another country. And this applies to you if you are moving either from Africa to the West or from the West to Africa. No matter where you are traveling to, if you are going to be residing in that environment, this is one of the top 3 reasons why people easily fall into depression. Now, number 3 is one that happens to every single person. So I wanted to stick around to the end of this video, and I'll also be sharing how you can overcome these challenges. But number 1 is the culture shock. Culture shock. Now, most people move from a place where you are to a different country. You have a culture you've lived all your life. You have a culture, you have a way you do things. Now, I think culture is the way you do things here. So you have a way you've done things for 25 years, 30 years, depending on where you move. And then you move to a new environment where things are done differently. For example, I got to discover that it is not an insult to call somebody by their first name, but where I'm coming from, you don't dare call anybody by their first name. So there's a lot of culture shock, there's a lot of food shock, there's a lot of way people behave, and this is the first thing that hits a lot of people, and then they are like, oh, most people fall back and they get depressed and all that. No, I think what I really advise people most times is when you are moving into an environment, get to find a way to adapt to the culture of that environment. Get to find a way to know, okay, what does these people do? How do they do their things? How do they live their life? And then you get to find a way to adapt to that culture, because whether you like it or not, except you are not staying in that environment for a very long time, you will have to adapt to that culture. One other thing I advise people is look for a community of people, look for a community of like minds, look for a community of people you share the same culture with. You can join a church, you can join, there's a lot of such communities out there where you can at least find the culture you are used to while you are trying to adapt to the new culture you have found yourself in. This will really help you cope and not get into depression. Number 2 on my list is homesick. Being homesick. Now, you've grown up with a particular set of people in your life. You've been around your aunties, your friends, everyone around you had the same color, everyone around you acted in the same way. And then you find yourself in an environment where people are looking at you kind of funny, and it looks like you are the odd one out. You're the different person in the environment. It can really put people into depression. And one of the things it does to you is the isolation method. It brings you out. You kind of get isolated if you're not careful. And the easiest way for people to get into very deep form of depression and even suicide is isolation. So I really don't want you to get into that space at all. You don't want to find yourself in a space of isolation. So like I said in the first part, look for a community, join a church if you can. Look for a community of people. Do not be alone. Do not be alone in these countries, especially if you move to the West. The weather itself contributes a lot to this, the whole depression drama. So you do not want to find yourself in an isolated place. What most people do is get to invite their families over for a visit. If you can, do that. But if you cannot, find yourself a community where you share like minds, you meet people daily, you see people you can talk to while you are trying to get to meet new people in the new environment you have come into. Number 3, which is very important and happens to 9 in every 10 persons who move to any of these Western countries, or most especially those who move to these Western countries, is the expectations versus reality. Now, the truth of the matter is that from where we are coming from, we've been sold a lot of stories. We've been sold a lot of unrealistic things. So people move abroad with a lot of unrealistic mindsets, and when they get here, the story is not different. The story is actually different. Money doesn't grow on trees. Nobody's giving you any free money. You have to work for every hour. You have to earn every single penny. And then that culture shock, thinking that, oh, by the time I move abroad, people sell their properties. Most people who are even living better in their countries, and then sell off everything they have, hoping for greener pastures. Yeah, they get there and they don't find out and discover that they have been sold a lie. So one of the things I advise people is, before you move to any country, or when you move to any country, Look for those who have been in that place and ask them, how does things work here? Look for people who will tell you the truth and not sell you a fantasy. Look for people who have been in those places and say, how does things work here? How do I get my way around things? I believe you don't have to learn from experience. You can actually learn from the experiences of other people who have been there ahead of you. All right, so that's my top 3 tips on how you can get out of depression. So have you experienced any of these 3 and how did you sort it? Let me know in the comment section and let's learn from each other. See you in the next one.